we kind of got a stinky one for you. All right, we just put 300 to 400 rounds through the G-Force RXP 9 Exodus. And this one, it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Let's get into it. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Tactical Twiggy here on GWC, where we have real reviews, real training, and real discipline. Right? Today we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna talk about the RXP 9 G-Force Exodus. Right. So a quick overview. This is the G-Force RXP 9 Exodus. It's a striker-fired polymer frame Glock style platform built for the budget category. Nothing crazy on paper, just trying to give you something affordable that works. It's not over the top, but it's different enough from the usual all black setups. Now guys, the looks and the finish on this weapon is impeccable, right? The bronze color on it in person, it really stands out. All right, just to start out, right, it's cleared. So let's go over ergonomics and how it feels in your hand, right? Not too aggressive, but if you've ever felt if you've ever put a Glock in your hand, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels exactly like a Glock, same type of style. We have front and rear laceration, so that you know, I do like the aggressive look onto it. Now you do have a slight undercut here, which is pretty awesome, so you can get a higher grip on the pistol grip itself. So that I do like. So overall, like I said, Glock 19 style type of weapon. I have nothing to say about the ergonomics. Nothing bad to say about the ergonomics here. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so next I want to talk about features and capability when it comes to the RXP 9 Exodus, right? So you do have a rail up front too. If you want to mount a light, you're capable of doing so. But that's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that its capability of parts. This matches the Gen 3/4 version of the Glock 19. And so you're able to use those parts for this weapon. Why is that a big plus? Well, that's a big plus if you're looking for parts, right? If something goes wrong or you want to upgrade parts, you can use those styles, or you could use the Glock styles to upgrade your weapon. Now I want to go over range experience with this weapon system. Okay, we put around 300 to 400 rounds through this gun. And like I said, I love this gun, right? So I don't want you guys to think that like when I get to overview gun, I love this gun. I love shooting this gun. Everything about this gun, the finish, everything. I love this gun. But we have to talk about reliability, right? Especially when it comes to actually testing it in the field. Out of that 300 to 400 rounds, let's go on the smaller side. Let's just say 300 rounds. We had about 8 malfunction. Every weapon system that we test out, we do it from the box. We don't lube it up. We don't do anything. We do it straight from the shop. We leave it in the box. I check it out, look at it, and then we go test it out. So we didn't lube it up. We didn't put no CLP on there. We didn't do no extra. We didn't give it no extra care. This is right out of the box testing. So it could have been a multitude of different things, right? But what we did notice. And the malfunctions were failure to feeds. So I had 2, and then my wife had 8. My wife had 6. But what I did notice is that once you started slapping the magazine in there instead of kind of just placing it in there, she started smacking it in there and racking it back and being a little bit more aggressive with the weapon system. Those malfunctions kind of went away. So once again, it could be user error, could be the weapon system, could be the ammo. You never know, but we cannot negate the fact that we did have 8 out of 300 rounds of malfunction. So when it comes to reliability, that's something that we need to be thinking about right there. Now let's talk about recoil. When it came to shooting this weapon system, like I said, I'm going to compare it to the Glock 19 because this is legit a clone of the Glock 19. It felt exactly like that, but I'm not going to lie, it definitely felt a little flatter than the Glock 19. It might sound like I'm gassing, but it really did. It felt a lot smoother. It felt, a lot less snappier than the Glock 19. So when it came to recoil management, I have nothing bad to say about that. Now let's go over accuracy. The accuracy was really good. It comes with the, I was very surprised for this price point because the iron sights comes with fiber optics, right? So 2 green in the back, and one red in the front. And I love that. It was very easy to reacquire the target when it came with those, and really easy to identify my mark with those iron sights. The trigger is another strong point that I want to hit on. So there's not a lot of take up, right? So if you can see, there's not a lot of take up at all. This is the wall right here. Once it hits this wall, right, you're pretty much right there. Boom, right? And the reset is not much as well, right? So once again, the trigger was something that I loved, and the smooth, right, the fluidity of the trigger, I love. Normally I don't like this like kind of, normally these triggers, they kind of get a little sticky in there. So when you compare it to a Glock 19, the trigger is definitely way smoother. I'll say the trigger is a little heavy. It is definitely a little heavy, but smooth and fluidity is I'll give it an A+. So now I want to talk about the things that surprised me and things that let me down, right? So biggest surprise is the accuracy, right? The sights, the fiber optics. I love that. I love that this budget pistol came with that. So kudos to G-Force for putting that on the the RPX. Dang, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. The RPX 9 Exodus, right? So kudos for them for putting that on there. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the trigger. I definitely love the trigger, and I love how short the trigger is, as I showed you guys earlier. I love the trigger. So that's definitely a plus and something that surprised me. So for $200 and I think $50, somewhere around there, $250, $260 out here in South Georgia at Palmetto State Armory, I give that a plus. What I didn't like about this weapon system is that everything felt clunky, right? From the slide, as you can see, the slide is like super clunky. The spring is super hard. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to be like that, to be honest. Well, actually, I didn't know what I expected. But at the end of the day, when I would lock it back and then slide it forward, it felt a lot more clunky than opposed to other weapon systems that I've tested. Now that could be, once again, it could be that it's because it's fresh out the box, right? It's brand new, but that's something that I didn't like about that. Now another way that it was clunky was with the magazine, right? You see no rounds, cleared, right? Is that when we first got it out the box, it wasn't as smooth as it seems now. Now that's an initial review, right? So maybe, like I said, after 1,000 rounds, right, this gun might start running a little bit better once it's past the break-in period. But everything that I do, like I told you guys, everything that I do is from right out the box, initial, right? A full-fledged, full-on initial review of the weapon system. Like I said, that's the downside of it. And then ultimately, it comes with a one round. Well, it came with one magazine. So other places might be different. I've seen other reviews where they said they came with 2 rounds. So that's the downside, or things that I didn't like about it. Okay. So now let's go over our pros and cons. I know this might kind of tie into what we just talked about in the last section, but I do want to highlight good things about this gun, right? So the pros about this weapon system is that it's a budget gun, right? So you can get it for within that $200 price range, right? So from anywhere from, I'm sure $230 to maybe upwards to $300. So within that price range, it's a really good price point, right? So that's one thing I definitely want to hit on. The fact that it comes with the fiber optics, right? That's awesome for a budget gun. I like to see those type of sights on weapon systems, right? Normally you get just a very, very basic iron sight on there, and like I said, for 200 and I think like $60, right? I like those upgraded sights on there. The capability, that's another thing that we can hit on, right? That we can run Glock things onto this RXP9 or RPX9. Excuse me. I think that, yeah, the RXP9. No, RPX9. Excuse me. Ultimately, I love the trigger, right? The trigger was very awesome. I love that there's not a lot of take up in there. And I love that there's not a lot like a long reset. Cons, like I said earlier, right? The clunky, right? The clunkiness of the gun, I definitely felt that. The slide, not releasing the mags well. But ultimately, I want to talk about the biggest con to this weapon. And like I said, it could be because it has no break-in period. It could have been user error. It could have been the ammo. It could have been all this stuff. But does not mean that we can negate what actually happened, right? And it's the fact that we had 8 malfunctions right out the bat. That's something that we can't overlook. No matter how much I love this gun, like the reliability point of this weapon system is I can't honestly tell you that I can rely on this gun. If you're new here, we always rate weapons on the tactical meter, right? From a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being 10 being the best and 1 being okay. So on the tactical meter, right? The RPX9 Exodus, right? G-Force RPX9 Exodus. We're gonna have to give it a solid, drum roll please. Brrr. We're gonna have to give it a solid 4. I know that's a little harsh, but we cannot overlook the malfunctions. We cannot overlook the clunkiness. We cannot overlook any of that, right? Ultimately, we cannot overlook the malfunctions. Now, the question is, after we gave it the tactical score, should you buy this weapon system? Should you buy the RPX9 Exodus? Excuse me, the G-Force RPX9 Exodus? My answer is no. At the end of the day, it's not about how much you spend. It's all about how much you train. But when you train, your gear has to actually work. Once again, train, stay disciplined, and stay ready. And also, if you guys ever feel alone, in all seriousness, if you guys ever feel alone, you ever feel like, you're down or whatnot, I just want to let you know that Jesus does love you, right? He cared for you. He died for you. And he's with you at all times. So don't ever feel alone, or don't ever feel like you're going through life alone, right? If you ever need someone to talk to, if you ever need prayer, if you ever need just extra help, I'll always be there to try to help as much as I can. My business email will be in my description. My socials will be in my description. If you want to email me, you can. If you want to message me or comment on here, you can. On this video, if you want to message me on any of my socials, please reach out. Okay, because you do matter and you are loved. All right. This is your boy Tactical Twiggy here on GWC. Like, subscribe, so that way, and hit that little notification button so you know when we drop another video. Jesus loves you.